Hi, good morning. Thanks a lot, actually. The speaker in the main hall, I came to know as Scott Davis. So I was actually expecting like a few of my colleagues and some of the people who really like me and want to give me a little bit of attendance would come here, and I pretty much not have anybody to speak to was my fear, but thanks a lot for coming in large numbers. It's very heartening, and also see a lot of faces that I've seen in the past, a lot of friends in here. Thanks a lot for coming. So thanks for the introduction. So once again, if we could have the phones all go to silent, that would be great. No pressure. Right, so like she mentioned, my name is Harish. I work for Adobe as an evangelist, and most of my work is on the Adobe Flash platform. But today, I've spoken at all the 4 editions of JIDS, so today there's a small little deviation that I'm doing, so I'm not really speaking about Flash platform today, even though what I'm speaking has applicability to it. So I have a session today called Adaptive Layouts. Before that, I always do a small check in the room. How many of us do CSS as part of our work? Brilliant. I have a very, very nice audience to speak to. So this is what I'm planning to do today. I'm speaking about a relatively new topic in the whole realm of CSS. So we can keep this a little more discussion-oriented. We can actually fight over things, and we can actually interrupt and ask me questions and say why I'm not saying the right thing, and so on and so forth. So let me ask, who has started working with CSS3? How many of us heard about it? Brilliant. So today my talk is titled Adaptive Layouts, and my whole perspective today is to tell you guys as to what we can do considering the number of different screens that we are dealing with. We have mobile phones, television sets, tablets, PCs, Macs, even refrigerator consoles, car systems. You have so many screens to deal with, and what does it really take to developers and even web designers, CSS architects to kind of leverage what is possible with the new advancements in technology? So let's get started by asking a question. One size fits all. I'm making a statement. How many of us agree? One person already agrees. Come on, guys, it's fine. I'm not going to hold you up for this. How many of us actually like to write code only once and it pretty much runs everywhere? That's a much better question to ask. Isn't that an expanded English for one size fits all? It pretty much is. So laziness is something which we all bring to table. That's why we are all effective. That's why we all do great stuff. I'm personally a big fan of staying lazy and doing things only once. So a lot of us agree that if there is a possibility, one size should fit all. So that brings me to my next question. Really? How many of us are saying no? We need to talk in this session. How many of us are saying no? Nice dream to have, nice belief to have, one size fits all. A lot of us are saying no. Saying sometimes. It depends upon what size you are dealing with. So sometimes the sizes are well within your control and the sizes are well within your definitive understanding. Many a time, one size fits all. That's why I say it largely depends upon the sizes that you deal with. Agree? It's a crude comparison. Don't mistake it to an if conditional. One of them told me this is mathematically wrong. That's not the intent. I'm just trying to say many a time in programming, in development, in design, sizes translate to screens because that's the real estate that you work on. And till about 2 years ago, the screens were fairly within our control. You know, we had like screen resolutions and things like that. You had just a PC and a Mac and some odd smartphone which will have like black and white display. And then Apple came and changed the game. Then Android came by. BlackBerry is doing a lot of stuff. WebOS. A lot of guys are bringing in high fidelity, high capability screens. And so we are dealing with more and more screens. To name a few. And that is the problem. There are so many of them. Now let me ask you a question. How many of you have actually built a web application? Let me say a website which has to work across at least 3 screens. So many of us have done that. Is that fun? Now leave your engineering happiness, oh, I love challenges, I want to crack this, I'm doing this. Leave that propaganda out. Just keep this like you're doing a job and you need to get paid for it. Do you like doing that work? It is not the most trivial piece of work because as the screens vary, the way people use it vary. So there are so many of them, which actually makes it a little harder for us to tackle. Again. So after a small deliberation within the small group inside this room, we have now come from an optimistic yes sometimes to a rather pessimistic maybe not. Now, how many of us are agreeing with me on the maybe not part? That is not representative. So there's a lot of people who think, So that is exactly where it is. Like few of us think yes sometimes, and few of us think maybe not. But the reality of designing for multiple screens is lying exactly in that middle region. It's possible, but I'm not sure. There are ways that I know how to make this happen, but it doesn't work always. So that is where we stand, and that is exactly the stuff that we will ponder today in a more contemplative way. I'm going to say certain things definitively and certain things rather contemplatively because it's a very, very subjective subject, and it's nice to pick fights with people who don't agree with me. Only after I'm done. Who knows what fluid layouts are? Who's doing them? I want to see hands. I want one person from the audience to say, why do you do fluid layouts?
It actually fits into any size.
One size fits all. Kind of, yes. See, we are arriving at that point. So fluid layouts are those nice, cute, happy layouts that you do once, and when you have a viewport, our man will happily adjust. Correct. What happens to your typography? Goes out of place. What else happens to your typography? I want to hear this. Not scalable. Yes, we heard something more. Oh, he said a lot of testing. So typography is a problem. We agree. Whenever we are doing fluid layouts, especially with percentages or even EMs for that matter. How many of us are working with EMs? It's a measure of your text sizes, even if you, no, okay. So even if you control it in a little bit, fluid layouts' biggest challenge is actually multi-screen. See, fluid layouts are nothing but shrink to fit kind of approach, right? They shrink because they are percentage based and they are always happy to shrink based on the real estate that's applied to them. So we have found out one small, but majorly it is workable. If you control the screen sizes, it's workable. Now, elastic layouts. Who knows what this is? It's just a terminology, but all of us are doing this. Elastic layouts are layouts which is actually driven by your typography. So your text starts wrapping around objects. That the objects sometimes that you have sized to a particular level, they don't lose the intended size. For example, a button is fairly constructed largely, and there's a text on the right side. There's no space for the text on the right. The text flows around. So if anybody who's worked with the CSS text flow, that is the new stuff, you'll understand what I'm talking about. You have a question? Oh, was it a question? No, right? If it's a question, you can just say question and I stop. So elastic layouts, the layout adjusts based on the text size. That seems reasonable, right? Elastic layouts seem mostly reasonable when you're dealing with a lot of text. For example, something like a text-based website, which has got some image elements and things around it, it typically tends to work. Can somebody guess what could go wrong completely using this approach? You can take a wild guess. Brilliant point. Scroll bar. Nobody likes them. Brilliant point. Anything else? We are seeing it, right? Typically when you have like this Wikipedia-style pages with elastic layouts. So Wikipedia is a great thing. They actually put a section tag and make them expandable columns. That's a brilliant thing that Wiki does to actually prevent the whole text flow problem. So if you do a straight elastic layout, that is the issue. You have like a huge flow problem. Magnification is an issue because the text does not necessarily change its dimensions based on the screen size that you're dealing with, especially speaking HTML terms. In Flash, the game changes a little. I'll come to that. When you're working with Flash, it is a little more easier. But HTML, it's a genuinely challenging problem. So It will work because it actually is based on understanding how much space you have width-wise available. If there is no width available, whatever is the next child, it actually goes as an n-child approach. So it will actually try to flow to the next child available. So that's how that. So it's basically a simple modification that you do to your CSS to achieve that. That's where I am speaking about what I want to call the other way today. Now, this other way is so new that standing here, I cannot tell you this is foolproof. Due to two reasons. I don't have enough experience building real systems on this. I have played around with this, and I'm fairly convinced that this other way that I'm proposing today is a great way to move forward in future. And that other way that I'm trying to tell you guys today is CSS3 media queries. Who has heard about these? One person, 2, 3, 4 people, 5 people. So no pressure. I just want to ask you guys, what is the big deal? Can one of you tell me, what is the whole deal with media queries?
So media queries actually, you can specify CSS5 for different screen resolution.
Brilliant. He nails it correctly. So media queries, that's exactly what I have in my next slide. CSS3 media queries will allow you to change the layout to suit the screen without changing your content. Let me run through this a couple more times. CSS3 media queries will allow you to change the layout to suit the screen without changing your content. Let's take a moment to contemplate what exactly the statement means. So here the content is actually the real data of your website, the content of your website. See, time to time when you do JavaScript-based layouting, that is the most commonly adopted solution when you are actually working on systems where both elastic and fluid layouts are not a perpetual solution. You mix elastic layouts with fluid layouts and throw a lot of JavaScript to do your magic. That's what we're doing right now. I mean, most of us would have done that. So what if we propose a solution where you take the whole one-size-fits-all notion, knock off all the JavaScript, and just have a CSS-based system which will actually build your applications to work across multiple screens based on what are known as simple media queries or CSS rules. That's an exciting prospect, right? I'll show you a couple of demos as I go forward to kind of validate what CSS media queries could mean for you. A media query, to define it, is nothing but a simple logical expression. A logical expression will return true or false. Who has worked with media types here? If you work with CSS2, you know the media types in CSS2, right? You could always supply things like handheld or landscape or screen, all. So what CSS2 used to allow you is to just specify what screen or what kind of a surface you are targeting your application to. So what we are trying to do in CSS3 media queries is to take it a step forward and allow CSS to make certain decisions for you based on what are known as media queries. Let's take a simple example of what a media query looks like. CSS2, we always had media types. How do you define it? Media. Or you can use an HTML import, or you can use an @media type on a CSS. So a media query will definitely contain a media type. That's something which you already know. What are we adding additionally? We are adding expressions. Those expressions are the one which are going to do the magic for you in terms of your layouting for multiple screens. This is no different from the CSS2 that you would have worked with, except for the fact that you see media is equal to screen. I have and open bracket color. What does this mean? Can anybody tell me what this would mean? Target this style sheet when the media type is screen and has the capability to show color. Make sense? So this CSS will be applied to only those screens. It will not apply to handhelds. It will not apply to anything else. It will be applied to only those screens whose screen is capable of showing color. Any questions on the syntax? This just goes back, yes. Yeah, the syntax, anytime we are putting expressions, like for example, the color is a query parameter, right? You're querying the screen to see if it supports color. So anything that goes inside will be embraced in parentheses. So this will explain that much better. So you have media type as screen and the expression. Here it's a single expression, which is color. I will quickly run through this and show you a demo. So, but this is important to understand because whenever you're pushing a new concept, it's actually critical that I kind of spend time to show you syntactically what it means. And here's a question. No, it just picks up what the screen returns you back. For example, you can force every screen to respond to what its resolution is and a set of properties that it exposes. So if it tells that, okay, I support color, it will do that. So it's only at that level. It does not go to your web page level to understand what you have in it. It's only at the level of what media you're working with. There are several. So I have not taken my time to list that down, but you can go to css3.org to actually go to W3C. You have color, you have width, you have height, you have orientation, you have position, you have all the CSS 2.1 stuff. So I'm just assuming if you're doing already CSS 2, you would pretty much know what the supported properties are with a couple of auxiliary things like landscape portrait, which you all had. So I will show you the link. I have the link for that supported types on this presentation, and I didn't want to paste it because that kind of a table will actually not suit my layout. So I didn't want to type that thing in here. So let's go back here. So we have an expression, which is the color here. Now expression section can have keywords and media features. So this is the second level. So here the and is a keyword. So if you have all written simple operator, unary operators, or ternary operators, it simply means if the media is screen and supports color, do something. Fair enough, right? So you have a keyword called and you have a media feature called color. And somebody asked me the syntactical question here, and the media features are always wrapped in brackets. Media features can be used without media type as well. In that case, can somebody tell me where it will go? It will just default to all. Media type, if you don't supply a specific media type in the media, it will just simply default to all. Media features accept min and max prefixes. This is also pretty simple. Min width, that min is a prefix. So you are just saying if my screen has a minimum width of 600, do something. If it has a maximum width of 900, do something. More on this on the demo. These are just syntactical constructs. I'm going to skim through them. All of us know this, just restating. If you have done CSS2 work, I'm not saying anything new here. Media queries can be used the same way as what you would have done in your earlier projects in HTML. So you can import via HTML, or you can use the @media via CSS. And you can just point to CSS here. This was a curious little learning that I did when I was actually working on this, trying to build a small prototype. So what is a handheld media type? Anybody has worked on it? So if you're building for devices, whenever you query when you ask what the media type of a device is, it pretty much returns a type called handheld. Now, there are a lot of class of devices which you would expect that they return a media type called handheld. The iDevices, especially iPhones and iPads, I'm pretty sure all of you will be starting to write for tablets, which would include the iDevices. Please do remember that iPhone doesn't support the handheld media type. If you're starting to target your CSS for handheld and use it on iPhone, you will see nothing. So iPhone has their own way of doing this, so you have to use something like this. You have to use the media as screen and say the maximum device width is 480. This is nothing that you need to worry about right now, but do remember that whenever you start writing CSS3 media queries, don't make the mistake of writing handheld-based media queries for iDevices. They will just not work. At least at the moment, they will not work. Unless Apple decides to change the way they want to deal with media queries. Mm-hmm. So CSS3 is a specification which is still a lot under specking process. A lot is being pondered upon. And as always, with any specifications, browsers have always had the freedom to implement it the way they like. That's why you have the classic case of browser incompatibility. So we have not solved that problem. So I would imagine even CSS would have to go through those pangs before they can arrive at what is a universally accepted solution. So at the moment, Apple believes that his device is not a handheld. It is a screen which has got a max device width is 480 pixels. Now, that is theoretically not wrong. Somebody believing the device is not a handheld is actually perfectly fine. Yes, question? Yes, for iDevices at the moment. Only the max width will change. So whatever sure. So iPhone, you'll have to say only screen. So I will tell you what, so only is also part of the specification. It's just that iPhone is saying to target my devices, they are saying you need to write your media query in a particular way. And that is not wrong. That is actually completely legitimate and per the spec. So it's, as developers, we just need to remember this because it's this is the first mistake. The first device that I tested was my Google Nexus 1 phone, and the next one was an iPod Touch, and I just realized that my code was not running on the iPod Touch. That's when I went and found out a little more and realized there's a different way of doing this. So I just had that little knowledge to share here, which I thought I'll just bring to you guys. Question? For Playbook, it is just screen, so you don't have to worry. Yes, so the whole idea of media query is that you can have multiple at-media declarations for targeting multiple screens. So if you're working with multiple devices, that's a whole promise that I'm trying to push to you guys, right? So if you're targeting multiple devices, all it would mean is like adding 3 at-media declarations and targeting that way. Exactly. Yeah, question here. Correct. So when I say one size fits all, what I'm trying to say is like you are not actually dealing with your content to do anything. See, what happens is like I'll show you a demo in terms of how my entire content relayouts very differently based on a media query as opposed to just wrapping or shrinking. That's what I tried to say. How are we going to deal with older browsers? Honestly, great question. I don't know. I really don't know. Because backward compatibility is something which the browsers control or the way. See, for example, as modern specs evolve, for example, if your question is about IE6, just say hypothetically, I can categorically state you it will not work. Because we are already sitting at IE9. Microsoft is probably doing IE10, and Chrome is doing 5. So the way to look at any technology of this model is to actually always implement fallbacks. See, through our life as developers, we have implemented fallbacks. So I've seen a lot of guys writing HTML5 video players. Great. But they all implement a flash fallback. See, because same question, somebody is still wanting to use, let's say, IE6 or an older version which doesn't support HTML5. That's a very pertinent question. The answer is what happens? It will gracefully degrade. You will not get any bad behavior. You will not see any behavior also. How else do I say this? I will show you a demo. I have 2 demos to show, and those 2 demos will actually try to set the context. And I'll try to play around with the demo in front of you so that we get, oh, there's a question. I need a time check. Where are we right now? Yeah, I know. Sure. Yeah.
I was actually practically trying this thing on the device also.
Yes?
One website which would practically
Uh-huh.
devices. But one of the problems which I faced was like the DPI, the resolution. Like I say, iPhone 3G has a green screen which has 480 pixels, and iPhone 4 has 960 pixels. So still it is a green screen.
I'm so glad you bring this up. I have slides on how to tackle density. Great point brought up. I'll come to that. I mean, he's bringing forward a brilliant point. I'm coming to that. You stole a little bit of my thunder, but then thanks for bringing it up. I'm going to speak about dealing with density just in a bit. But thanks for bringing it up. See, I'm fairly lazy doing slideware, so I'll probably try and show a small little demo. I want to hand code something, not use something which is pre-canned, which will actually help us see what exactly does it mean to write a simple media query and see it working. How many of us here are movie fans? Everybody watches some movies, man. Come on. Please put all your hands up. You would have seen some movie in your life. How many of your movie was? Everybody watches movies. How many of you watch Tamil movies? Let me tell you a small little thing about movies. To watch a Tamil movie, the rule of thumb is you don't have to understand Tamil. Such is the case with a lot of South Indian movies. Who understands Tamil here? So many of us understand Tamil. This is nothing to do with CSS, but since we have so many people here who understand Tamil and who don't, I just wanted to throw a small trivia at you guys. Do you know that Tamil, in Indian languages, Tamil holds the special skill of being the most effective language when you have to put your point forward? Anybody tried it? Who understands Hindi here? So many of us. See, I'll give you a small example. In Hindi, you are like really pissed and you want to shout at somebody. What can you say? Abbe! I speak Malayalam. I'm from Kerala. Eda. In Kannada, hey. You know how it is done in Tamil? Die! Do you see the effect? Certain languages have certain beautiful skills associated with them. I learned Tamil just for this kick because the heroes that they bring to table. And the kind of songs we make, and we also produce. That's the industry which produced the god Rajinikanth. So I'm a big fan of that industry. So interestingly, Tamil movie industry is a great example to demonstrate CSS3 media queries. You know why? Because people who are from the north of India who have seen Hrithik Roshan, Shah Rukh Khan, Amir Khan, who are flaunting their six-packs, running in foreign locales. And promise me, guys, people who watch Hindi movies, when did you see a baby elephant run on a screen last? Hathi Mera Sathi? Yes? We see it in every alternate movie in South India. That is because we like our heroes that way. Have you seen Mohanlal? When Mohanlal acted in a movie called, what is that movie, man? A movie called Sagar alias Jackie, people were actually worried they spotted an Asian elephant in Ladakh. He was wearing a black coat and walking there. So the point is, we like our heroes that way. For modesty's sake and also to stay relevant and politically correct, I will not speak about the heroines at all. So I am going to show you a media query with a Tamil movie example. So as an ardent Tamil movie buzz, I just don't want to see my favorite hero's face getting cut in a screen which is not good enough to fit his size. Most of them require 70 mm. But with technological advances, you can actually put them into desktops, iPads, BlackBerry playbooks, notebooks, netbooks, phones, and whatnot. So that's what we'll do. We'll write a simple HTML page which will show my favorite hero in all screen resolutions without writing JavaScript. Just media queries. But that's an easy way of demoing, right? And the thing is, I will start with a fresh HTML. I might make mistakes or I might make semantic, syntactical mistakes as I go, but we'll get this figured. Who's ready? In a room of about 80, 90 people, like 5 people are ready. Who's ready, man? Who wants to see a demo? All of us like to see demos, man. Who wants to see a person talking about something which is predominantly not making sense after the 7th slide? Out with this. So I'm going to use Dreamweaver CS55 as my tool, but you can pretty much use any text editor for doing what I'm doing. It's just that I like the whole code hinting features and whatnot in Dreamweaver, and it's a great IDE to work with. So I practiced a couple of times, so just to make sure that. But I'll start afresh, as always. So no cheating, just a plain HTML file created. Let's just quickly go ahead and create a small little div where we will show our favorite hero. I will. Let me just type it and I'll show you what I typed. So I had this discussion with her before you guys came in terms of what is the right way. Just give me a moment. Can you see this? That's all I added. I just added a div, gave it a class, and Now, no more HTML code, no more JavaScript code. All that we will write is CSS media queries. Fair enough? So let me come here. If I'm making any mistakes, correct me, okay? Because I'm not paying attention. Fine. Visible? Now before I type anything, let's just go back to the ways that you can add a CSS media query. One is putting the link tag, the other one is import via HTML, and the third one is by using an @media directive, right? So in this particular example, I'm going to go ahead and use an @media directive. But always remember that this is not the only way to do it, even though I have realized through my practice through the last one and a half months that I find this the easiest to do because it actually sits nicely. You can actually abstract this out into a separate CSS file as well. So at the moment, I'm putting it in line for want of time. I will increase the size once I finish typing, because if I make the font size into 16, I have hardly any space to type. What is the next one? What will you provide here? The media type. You can say something like all, handheld. I'm going to just say screen. So this, whatever I'm going to do, whatever CSS I'm going to write, will be targeting only devices or machines which actually report back their type as screen. And this is the keyword, and we'll say max width, let's say visible at the back. So what have we said? Media is screen and max width is 600 pixels. Do something. So what is that do something? We're going to do something very trivial. So we'll say .1, which is our div. Background image, URL of (300-pixel) image, because it's smaller than 600, it will well fit within that screen, right? So I'm just adding a JPG which is 300 pixels. Now I don't want background to repeat. Put it to no repeat. You should not really bother about height, since I created a dump div here, which will just put a empty straight 1 pixel div. I'm just forcing it to have a height so that it can show the picture. In real terms, your CSS should never contain height specific information unless you really need to make a box or something like that. Unless you want a physically sized container, it's probably one odd situations you will have to really say a height notation in CSS. This is something which you already know. I'm just trying to restate that. This is something which you have to probably keep in mind. So this is a technique which all of us know, right? I need some validation. All of us know this trick, right? Patented by developers. It's called Control-C, Control-V. Use it as often as possible. Saves life. It also copies and pastes the typographic error so that you can do one find and replace. Both ways, it's a very, very efficient mechanism. And through all these years, this is my primary skill set. So here we will change the conditional. So we will say if the min width is 600 and fair enough? All of us understand the syntax, right? Now what are we saying? It is almost like a less than greater than compare in programming. If something is greater than something and something is less than something, it is done using the and keyword instead of using your unary ampersands, but nothing that you do not know. Let us make this a 700 pixel image. Don't worry about what I'm doing here. I just have to get a demo. That's why I'm actually showing there's a reason why I'm showing images of different sizes that will come to the point that the gentleman here mentioned in my subsequent slides. And finally, if we say, what do we say? Greater than 900 pixels? Minimum. Yes, see? It's that simple. See, it's the 5th time I'm making this app5.html. Right, so what do we have here? We have a simple div and 3 media queries. And those media queries implementations don't do any rocket science here. It's pretty simple. But let us run this and see what we get. So, we got nothing. Why would that be? Maybe the URL is wrong. Honestly, I don't know why it didn't work. Maybe I put the style in a no man's land. That's possible, right? Never mind, I'll not waste time on this. I already have one written. Same thing, guys. I'll just show you what this is. Exactly what we wrote. Fair enough? Let me just run this. My favorite Tamil hero. He also looks like a teddy bear. My sister's kid likes him a lot. So jokes apart, that is the largest screen available. Yeah? See. Can you see the change? This is more like a tablet resolution. More like a computer, tablet, mobile. Now I'll show you a real demo after this. So what we learned over here is that we did not really write any of this logic. So there's a question that he asked. I'll just quickly touch on it. Would you have scaled this image instead? How many of you would have done that? You would have given percentage and scaled the image. What is the danger? Quality, definitely. Quality, definitely. No denying it. What is the second danger? Loading time, brilliant point. There's one more, which is like a super duper critical risk in scaling, especially in lower memory devices. You know what that is? Processing time. There's actually a lot of calculation to repaint that, to actually scale something down. See, you would have known this. When you're building for mobile devices, see, I come from the Flash world, and I'm very, very used to using vector graphics. Because it's really, really nice because they are scale aware. If you scale them to the lowest proportion, they will still retain their qualities. But you know what the risk of a vector is? Risk of a vector is it has got mathematical information. It's processed every single time. That's not going to help. So that is the reason why media queries always request you to target the scaling assets in their exact sizes. Please remember this. You will realize it yourself. If you're used to scaling, you will sooner or later realize that for your mobile devices, for your lower resolution, lower capability devices, you're going to have problems because your scaling will not be uniform and different encodings have different scaling algorithms and you'll get into all sorts of circles. So that's why supplying different sources is very critical. I know I have 5 minutes left. Let's see. One last demo and I'm done. All of us are familiar with this kind of a design, right? It's a simple web page. So this is a comp one of my friends created. And what we have in the new Dreamweaver, this is a feature which I wanted to show off. If you guys are already, who is using Dreamweaver here? Quite a few of us are using Dreamweaver. Great. So when you get a chance to download the CS5 file that we recently announced, the Dreamweaver has quite a brilliantly nice feature. So what you can do is, you can directly go here and click on the multi-screen button. So when you do the multi-screen button, what you really see here is, it will actually show you all the 3 screens, right? Which is, this is the mobile phone, the 320 by 300 mobile phone. This is a tablet which is 768 by 300, and you have a desktop which is like 1126 by whatever. See, like I always said, the height is never a concern because it's going to flow anyways. So just a bit. Now let us do a simple thing here. I select multi-screen, come here and say, edit media queries. What it gives me is, it gives me a wizard where I just click here and say, force devices to report actual width. Please remember, this is a golden rule of working with media queries. If your device does not report its actual width, your media query is useless. So always, always force your device to report what its width is. So you can see here, phone has a max width of 320, tablet is 321, greater than 321, and less than 768, and desktop is greater than 769. Fair enough? So now all you need to do is link each one of these to a CSS file. Give me a moment. This is my mobile phone. So put mobile.css. These are things that I really like about Dreamweaver. For want of time, I'll actually only do this and I'll actually run the page which I already constructed. So what you can do is it actually created the media query for you by default. You saw that when it reports the actual size, the whole @media query with all the conditionals has been generated for you. All you need to do is point it to the right CSS. So let me run a pre-created file purely for want of time. Can you see this? When I come to the multi-screen preview, this is the 3 column. This is a single column. And finally, this is the best. So this is best seen when I run it on the browser. Let me. With no code, you don't write JavaScript at all. Now think about it this way. If you are not a CSS guy, if you are a web programmer, you will not write layout code at all. Now it is much bigger than what we see at the moment. I mean, I'm not saying I have seen it all, but it's a lot bigger than what we have seen in the past. So all you do is just write CSS, keep pointing them, and your designer decides your UI. As a web programmer who is like writing a JavaScript, writing your menu systems, write them. The CSS will define how it will realign. Just the way for the mobile phone, the buttons came one after the other. That's just a small replication of this. And I am almost run out of my time, so let's just quickly. Thankfully, I'm pretty much done. So my browser doesn't seem to support media queries. Somebody asked this question, thankfully, so I can quickly say media types will still be supported. The only keyword can be used. You saw the only in the previous iPhone example. It can be used to hide your CSS for devices which don't support this. Dreamweaver demo is done. I'm a Flex developer. Flex developers here? Media queries are supported. We are still working on them, but media queries are supported, so good thing. Browser compatibility status. Firefox yes, Safari yes, Chrome 5 yes, Opera 10 yes, IE 9 yes, IE 8 no. Whatever that means. Use whatever works. Big word of thanks to Russ Weekly. He actually even served as a textbook for me, learning this feature. Recommend checking out his presentation. That's the link. I'll share it with the organizers. Great presentation, great material in CSS3. The whole structure is extremely evolved, and it's a great place to start. That's my coordinates for the people who want to reach out to me, ask me questions. You can email me at hsivaram@adobe.com, Twitter at hsivaram, and you can follow my blog at blog.flexgeek.in. I don't have time for questions at the moment, but I'll be happy to take questions right after I get off the stage or at the Adobe booth. And thank you.